Well, thanks for joining us today. We're here with segment 2 of the Big Blue Podcast with Mayor G.T. Bynum. I'm Lee Goodson, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Greg Stone, here at the McKeon Center for Creativity in downtown Tulsa. Mayor, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yep. Dr. Stone, here we go. We had a great first segment, lots of great information about the mayor's family and why he's doing this and some of the accomplishments you've already made. And really, what I really noticed about segment 1 was just how positive. I mean, if you can just really think about the affluent wealth, and I'm not talking about money, but just the affluence of the city in terms of how many positive things are going on.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible. And, you know, when I go to visit other cities, I watch the local news.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, the local news is that way everywhere. That's what everybody talks about on the local news. Nothing against the local news. We love our broadcasters, but I mean, really, it's important to keep a perspective, and you do a really good job of that.
Well, and that's a benefit that I get in this job that I haven't had in previous jobs is I meet with business people from outside the city who come here at least once a week, have a meeting with a business person from outside the city. And that gives you the chance to see what people who don't live here think about Tulsa. And right now, what I hear over and over again is that they are just blown away by the way everyone is kind of rowing in the same direction and the level of investment that's occurring in the city across all sectors. That's something that stands out to people.
That's wonderful. Well, your grandfather is Robert LaFortune, and he was the mayor of Tulsa in 1970.
Yes.
And you and I recently, when we launched the 50th anniversary commission of TCC, which was then TJC,
right.
You sat by your grandfather,
yep.
And I got to sit by President McKeon and President Van Treese.
Yes.
And that was I got to say, that was pretty exciting.
It was
for me.
awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting for me personally. And just, you know, you and I have been friends for a while. And I remember we had breakfast with one of our mutual friends one time, and neither one of us were even near what we're doing now.
Yep.
And it was just a pretty cool moment. But talk to us a little bit about what it meant to be there with your grandfather and knowing your involvement in TCC and what his was then.
Well, I do have to say, I've thought about that meal you and I had together years ago because I remember you said something at it that stuck in my head, which was maybe the two most important jobs to impact Tulsa are mayor of Tulsa and president of TCC. And now here we are, right?
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Hopefully making a positive impact.
Yes, we are. We're working at it.
But, you know, the thing that I've really enjoyed in the time that I've been mayor, there have been a couple of different events where, like that one, where I've been able to see a 40th anniversary of something that my granddad did when he was serving, you know, back before I was even born. And what that shows me is that the decisions that we're making today, they're not just to improve the lives of people today or next year, that they really can have a positive impact on people for decades. It also gives me I'm always humble when I look at just the record that he had, both from being street commissioner and then mayor. He got so much accomplished during that time, and so much of it was about just putting every bit of energy and thought that you have into doing as much as you can for the city while you're in this job. And that's something that I tend to get obsessed with as well.
Mayor Bynum, one of the things that a lot of our faculty and staff...
Not to interrupt you, but again, I mean, he's been my hero since I was a little kid, and it's really cool now to have his old job and to be at something like that, get to sit with him and see the work that he did all those years ago get recognized. So I appreciate you including him in it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yes. Maybe we'll be up there and we'll be old people. Right? And they do the 75th, right?
I know.
Okay, yeah.
There are a couple other topics we want to ask you about just really quickly. The college is doing a lot of work when it comes to equity and inclusion.
Yes,
lots of interest and emphasis in a lot of our courses on issues related to social justice. Can you give us an update on where things are with the work that the Tulsa Commission on Community Policing is doing?
Yes.
Because that's really important to you and your
It
administration.
is. When I came in as mayor, we recognized that to have the kind of community police relationship that we want to have, we need to implement a community policing program. But when I asked everyone, what's community policing, every single person I asked gave me a different answer. And so we put together a commission of citizens, elected officials, and police officers who looked at best practices all around the country. They gave us 77 different recommendations to implement. As of today, 75 of those are being implemented on an ongoing basis. One is just being staffed at the right level, which the city council and I have funded in back-to-back years the largest academy increases in the history of the city. We've done about 6 years worth of hiring in 2 years, but we still have a ways to go. We're right about 800 officers. We need to be at 940. And then the other side of it is that we need to have an entity that can look at how our overall program is doing from an independent standpoint. What I don't want us to do is spend all this time implementing something and have the mayor's office that, initiated it and the police department that's helping implement it have us be the judges of whether or not it's effective. I don't think that's impartial, or I don't think that's helpful for us as people who sincerely want to do a good job in implementing it. You always do a better job when you have some outside entity come in and look at it. So the council and I, city council and I, are working on establishing an office of the independent monitor that would help us on that front. But overall, it's going very well. A lot of cities, you see resistance to things like body cameras or citizen advisory boards or implicit bias training. Here, our police officers have been right on top of it, have been totally supportive of it on all of those fronts, which I think says a lot about the officers and the department that we have.
I want to ask you a question. There's been a lot of buzz in the city about higher education in general.
Yep.
And part of when we went to Columbus for the inner city visit, a big part of that discussion was higher education. And talk to us about how does higher education in general and TCC in particular fit into the larger picture of economic success in the Tulsa metro area?
Well, for us, we're trying to be the most competitive city that we can be from an economic development standpoint. And in the modern era, you cannot do that if you don't have an educated workforce. That's what industry calls it. Here we would say for just normal people, it'd be having people in Tulsa that have had access to good education. And there was a time when our success and our ability to grow as a city was because we had access to natural resources that were under the ground. Today, the cities that are going to grow, their natural resources are the people that are there and what you do with the people that you have. So I feel incredibly lucky that we have, TCC, is it the largest higher ed institution in?
It's third. It's third. OU and OSU.
Okay.
OSU has OSU IT, OSU Oklahoma City,
Okay,
OSU
okay.
Center for Health Sciences, OSU Tulsa, and then Stillwater. So
It's the largest in the city of Tulsa, though.
it's the third largest in the state. It's the largest in the city of Tulsa, and it's the largest community college.
Right.
Yeah,
And
in the
so
whole state. Right.
That's a tremendous resource for us. And I got to speak at your graduation.
You did.
And it was awesome to just see how many people graduate from TCC
It's amazing,
every year.
isn't
It's
it?
remarkable.
It is remarkable.
Yeah.
I'm going on 5 years, and I'm still amazed.
Yeah.
At how many there are.
Right.
Yeah.
And so as, the folks that are getting that education, I've been convinced that we're in a time of so much rapid change that the people who are going to thrive in an environment like that are the people who go through not just, hey, I went to college 20 years ago and got a bachelor's degree and now I'm set. It's people who have a commitment to continual education. And TCC provides that in a way that I think a lot of other universities don't.
Mayor Bynum, we are going to ask you the last question that we ask all of our guests, which is what we call the big question, which is, if you could go back in time and give 18-year-old college-bound GT Bynum some advice, what would that be?
I think it would be to really focus on and value the time that you have with the people that you love. Like, I have made lots and lots of mistakes and endured lots of horrible things. Got laid off when my daughter was 2 weeks old, and had losses in our family and things like that. But I wouldn't change any of that, because I'm a big believer everything that happens to you leads you to where you are. And I love the life that I have right now here in Tulsa with my wife and our 2 kids. But if I have any, the thing that I miss the most are the people who aren't around anymore. And when you're young, it's easy to take that for granted and just think that all the people you care about, they'll always be there. But at some point you get down the road and they're not anymore. And you think about, well, gosh, I wish I had asked them this question or that, or I should have called them up and gone out to lunch with them or had breakfast with them or seen them more than I did. And so that, I think for 18-year-old me, that would be my advice, is don't take that for granted.
That's good advice. That's really good advice. Well, you've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast. We want to thank our guest, Mayor G.T. Bynum, for spending some time with us today, and we want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week in the week at TCC and on the Creativity Channel at YouTube. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.